Kick it off.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ravi Bala, and wanted to, first of all, thank everyone for being here virtually. This is a community public meeting to discuss the future of the Multi-Service Center. The Multi-Service Center has several functions, not limited to a roller skating rink, senior services, an uptown a library, a family planning clinic, and basketball courts, and other functions. So what we're here to do today, right now, is really see if we can reimagine the Multi-Service Center and bring it to the 21st century and increase the number of offerings that the Multi-Service Center provides residents on a daily basis. As long as I've been a resident of Hoboken, people have always asked me, why don't we have a outdoor community pool in Hoboken? And that's something that's been a recurring theme throughout the community here in Hoboken over the years. So I'm really honored to say that these renditions of a reimagined multi-service center each contain the option for a municipal pool for the residents of the city of Hoboken. This is a historic project, not just for the neighborhood, but for the entire city. Not just because we'll have a modernized multi-service center, but we'll have one with two critical additional features. One is a municipal pool for the residents of Hoboken. And number two, we want to make sure that the senior center we have is as good as it can be, because our seniors deserve nothing but the best. And I know that we can do better as a community. So how do we get there? I'll tell you this, it's about reaching across the aisle. It's about working with colleagues for a common purpose, that no matter what your political stripe in Hoboken, one thing that we agree upon is that on days like this, where it's so humid outside, it would be great and it'd be refreshing if we could take our kids, take our families, take ourselves to a place where we can enjoy an outdoor pool. So that's what each of these options include. They each include a pool. Some include an indoor feature as an option. Others include an outdoor. What the final product is going to be determined by the residents of the city of Hoboken. We've retained the Musial Group. They'll walk you through this presentation. Each presentation is multi-layered in the sense that each floor of the multi-service center will both retain its pre-existing uses, but also add additional uses, including but not limited to, I mentioned a pool, but also pickleball courts and other things that are necessary here in Hoboken. So with that, I want to introduce someone without whom this would not be possible. And that's our 4th Ward Council member, Ruben Ramos. Ruben has been a driving force in advocating with my administration for the redevelopment of the Multi-Service Center. So the marriage of the redevelopment of the Multi-Service Center together with the unanimous desire for a municipal pool is a convergence, which you'll see here through this presentation. So that I would turn the virtual mic over to my friend and dear colleague, Ruben Ramos. Is Councilman Ramos here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor, for the introduction. Really appreciate it. I know this has been like a stop and go process for a number of years now, but I was extremely happy to work with the mayor, his office, and my council colleagues to include this funding to hire the Musial Group in our 2022 municipal budget. And I'm extremely excited to show the public what they've come up with so far. We wanted to obviously respect what's happening in the multi-service center now and expand upon the services being provided currently and provided services that are currently not being provided in the city of Hoboken. I think the mayor touched on a couple of those. A wonderful, an outdoor pool is an opportunity for this at this location. Expanding our senior services will be an opportunity to expand that, including a public library as part of our services in southern and southwest Hoboken, and also pickleball, and even the potential for an ice rink is even included in this plan. So we're really excited to hear everyone's feedback, because that's what it's all about. What you're going to see tonight is what the public told us and the group. So we're excited to share that with all of you tonight and hear more feedback and fine tune it as we move this process forward with the administration and the rest of our council colleagues. So we look forward to it. And Jessica, now the mayor passed it over to me, and I will pass it over to you. So thank you very much, everyone. We're excited for this process to kick off again. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I hope everyone can hear me now. Thank you, Mayor and Councilman Ramos, for the introductions. This is a little agenda for a great meeting here. I'm just going to introduce the project team, just quickly review the process to date, go over the community engagement and our analysis of that. And then I'm going to turn it over to Musiel, and Musiel is going to really dive into the concepts at that point. And just a note about feedback: at any time throughout the meeting, you can submit a question through the Q&A. All right, so quickly again, thanks so much to Mayor Bala and the administration for their guidance, and all the council people for their ideas and feedback along the way. And also to my colleagues, Director Gonzalez, RJ and Yasmin, and then of course Musiel group here. This is the project team. As far as the process goes, we focused significantly on the community engagement, and we continue to do so. The project really kicked off with a slew of stakeholder meetings, primarily with the users of, or the occupants really, of the multi-service center, all of the city departments and services that are there: recreation, housing, health department, seniors, and all of the tenants. Musiel did in-depth interviews with all of the stakeholders there to find out what their existing, how they use the facility today, and to dive into what their needs are for the future so that they can really right-size their spaces for Hoboken residents. We also created a project website, and so far hosted a great community meeting on March 9th that had about 70 attendees. There was a separate meeting for seniors on March 16th with about 25 attendees. And then we did an online survey that collected 618 responses. I'm going to go over each of those quickly. And all of that informed the three concepts that Musiel is going to go into today. And I know that's the heart of this presentation, so I'll try to move through the rest of this quickly. Just a note, after today, we'll be releasing an online survey, and where you can, vote your preferences for the concepts and things you like and dislike about the concepts. We'll be hosting a senior meeting at the Multi-Service Center on July 6th. And then we're going to compile all this feedback and to create hopefully one preferred concept to present to the community at the next meeting. So here's just some images of the first community meeting that we had at the Multi-Service Center, again on March 9th. It was the Musiel group gave a great presentation, and then participants were able to participate in several fun activities here. I'm just going to go over one of the activities because it really is driving kind of our determination of the uses that people really want in the multi-service center in the future. So this activity involved looking at 6 categories of use right now in the multi-service center, the civic uses, under which there's a variety of possibilities: like public restrooms, rent control, senior services, tenant spaces, those that are there today, like daycare, or those that could be there in the future, a cafe, an art gallery. Arts as a category, like art studios or makerspace, music practice, a variety of active recreation uses, and passive recreation like bingo or dog park, and educational uses like after school, library, and so on. So those are the categories. And of those, there's 42 stickers here. And so people were able to take any one of these 42 stickers and place them on these selection strips, which you could rank your preferences from 1 to 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. And so this is what those selection strips looked like when people were done ranking their preferences. You could also write in anything on a sticker. So at this meeting, you'll notice that there are uses that are definitely missing from here. It's not everything. And so a lot of people we found wrote in cheerleading at this meeting. All right, and so when we analyzed the results of the first community meeting, the highest ranked preferences under the category of active recreation were basketball, cheerleading, fitness, hockey, and swimming. Under the category of passive recreation, there are clubs. Under the arts, it was the art studio. For commercial, it was daycare and event space, after school and library space under the educational category, and civic category, community room and senior services. Then we had a meeting with just the seniors, as I mentioned previously, and that ranking looked a bit different. Bingo was clearly the highest ranked choice there. And then in the active category, we have fitness, clinic, parking, and senior services were also ranked pretty highly from the senior focus group. So then when we look at how these uses pan out when considering like our full 42 index here, 42 use index, the ones that pop out really are community room and senior services under the civic category, daycare, art studio, basketball, fitness, and swimming, and cheerleading, which again was a write-in option, bingo, after school, and library. All right. So then we move on to the responses we got from the online survey. Again, 618, so that's a really good showing. More than half of all of the respondents are within a 10-minute walk of the multi-service center. And here are the responses from the survey. The survey asked in each category, so in your active recreation category, choose your top 4 features that you would like. And so out of active recreation, the highest ranked features were swimming, basketball, hockey, and fitness. Under the passive recreation category, community gardens and clubs was highly ranked. Under the arts category, people were really interested in performance space and space for crafts and art studio. Commercial, it was event space and cafe. Educational, after school space and a library space, and under civic, restrooms and community rooms. So a bit different than what we saw at the meeting. And this fun slide really just kind of tries to compilate or compile both the meetings and the surveys in terms of priority features. So you can see there is some overlap, the meetings being the black circles and the online surveys being the red circles. So everybody wants community rooms and restrooms and changing, but really more people that attended the meeting, want, a focus on additional senior services and so on. And so these are our categories with the highest ranked features in each category. Happy to answer any questions about that when we're finished. And now I'm going to turn it over to the Musial group to go over the concept designs.
Thank you very much. I'm Noel Musial with the Musial Group. With me is Larry Lane. And thank you again, Mayor Vala and Councilman Ramos for inviting us to present the material that we've compiled and developed over the past couple of months. So as Jessica said, the driving force behind the development of these schemes really was the community input that we received during the meetings and during the survey. The community input in tandem with the stakeholder interviews kind of identified and gave definition to what goes into the building and how large those spaces are. Conversely, there are external influences, factors that are affecting the way each of these schemes relate to the context. Green Acres is we had a lot of discussions with Green Acres representatives about what is possible, trying to really maximize the amount of active recreation space at the site. And then, of course, the flood elevation has major implications in terms of what is potentially possible to be at grade. So each of these different schemes tries to use or respond to these different criteria in different manner, really to just get the community's input and ideas flowing in terms of what's possible at the site and different ways to configure things. So this, after the stakeholder interviews and analysis, this is really a product of that, where it's essentially all the spaces in the building as building blocks. So our charge was to figure out how to get this to fit within the envelope available to us. So we have city services, tenants, and all of those different categories that we were described earlier. So this is existing, just kind of an overview of the existing site. Everybody's familiar with the existing multi-service center. And then on the Green Acres portion, the 100 by 200 foot parcel, about 0.46 acres, there's currently the hockey and basketball bike stations and the public plaza. Something that we noticed was that there's definitely a way that current configuration can be optimized. There's a lot of kind of space that we tried to maximize and put program into. So sorry, next please. This is a diagram of the square footage allocation within the existing building. We'll note this again later as a reference when we have a comparison of all the different schemes with respect to this to give people understanding of how the different spaces grew and how much larger the new facilities potentially can be. So we have three concepts that we'd like to present to you today. Each of them addresses and responds to those different criteria in different manners, be it the context, the Green Acres restrictions, or the flood elevation. So concept one is we call it stacked recreation with rooftop aquatics, where we really tried to go into
Sorry about that.
Oh, no, sure, yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
staying on this slide, sorry.
Okay, thanks. We tried to, in having discussions with Green Acres representatives, see what's possible on the site. And so this, we'll get into it in a little bit, but that scheme really tries to maximize the amount of usable square footage on the Green Acres portion by stacking exterior program. Then concept two is pavilions in the park, we've coined it, and what we've attempted to do here in this one is kind of scale back the stacked recreation that we saw in concept one, maybe not as intense of a version of that. This scheme has an interior pool as well as an additional pool on the Green Acres portion of the site. And then concept three is raised building, and that responds to the parameters and frankly the size of a regulation hockey rink, in addition to the flood elevation criteria that need to be abided by. So that's the summation of them, and so we'll go into concept one now. The stacked recreation. So in a general overview of the massing, the Green Acres portion of the site, which is the corner of 2nd and Adams. In this scheme, we've stacked various floor plates with active recreation, culminating at the top with a lap pool, and really treating this scheme as an aquatic center where we have varying elements related to aquatics nature. And so starting on the first floor, we have the existing footprint, the existing hockey rink on the Green Acres portion of the site, although it is larger, it is a regulation roller hockey rink, whereas now it is a bit smaller than regulation size. So on this scheme, we tried to think about the neighborhood context and the pedestrian experience and what the neighborhood will see and experience as they're walking day to day at the street level. And so what we tried to do was activate the pedestrian experience to the extent that we could by incorporating elements such as the library and cafe at grade, so that people can have access to the cafe should they be using the Green Acres facilities, as well as the library for after school. And then in addition to that, on the ground floor, the entrance to the building proper is really off of Grand Street in the center of the building, what's labeled reception and lounge. Also, in doing analysis of the various programs, daycare was noted as being an important component, a critical component to incorporate and have at the site. There are restrictions in terms of the educational code that state if certain age groups are accommodated at the facility, there needs to be direct access to the street or to a grade or to a means of egress. So what we had found and tried to resolve in these various schemes are the kind of at times conflicting information, not conflicting information, conflicting criteria, whereas the flood elevation is really asking us to not put certain things at grade. The daycare, if it should be at the site, needs to be, and we have alternate ways of addressing this. This scheme puts daycare at the first floor. So as we move up the building, something that was apparent in doing the analysis and in speaking with the stakeholders and in speaking with the community was the desire for some spaces that can accommodate multiple uses, as well as certain programs that have needs such as cheerleading and some fitness that would require double height spaces. So the square footage of these buildings incorporates a lot of double height spaces to accommodate these various uses that do need that volume. So here we see the library is a double two-story height space. There are second floor as part of that. We have club rooms, the recreation office, the gym, and while we didn't highlight the various support spaces, the gray boxes are meant to represent stairs, elevators, utility rooms, changing, and restrooms. So there's on the second floor, we move up into the senior services. That is a bit larger than the existing accommodations. You can kind of see adjacent to the senior services, there is an exterior kind of deck. Both this scheme and scheme 3 incorporate a kind of exterior space for seniors as a kind of porch. They also have access to the Green Acres portion. There's continuity at this level between the floor plate on the existing site and the Green Acres portion. So at the Green Acres portion of the site, there is a publicly accessible stair that allows the public to come up to this level to access active recreation. It's also available to be accessed via an elevator off the lobby. So at this level, in addition to that, we have the indoor walking track, and something that in the back of our minds while we're developing the schemes, there are certain things that we're looking into, certain relationships that thought would be meaningful. And so I think the relationship, especially when thought about with respect to the existing conditions, where the existing multi-services center really puts its back to the Green Acres site. So in all of these, we're trying to develop a relationship, a connectivity between the building and the exterior, between inside and outside, and have more of a gradient versus a hard edge between the two. So as we go up to the next floor, we have that multi-purpose recreation space, which is there, as well as the community flex space. This floor really has a lot of the existing program, and you'll find this in the other schemes as well, where we try to condense city services within one floor plate, so that visitors wouldn't necessarily have to be going from floor plate to floor plate. There's a kind of centralized access to the city services here, and city services entails the health department clinic, the housing department. It also has the vital statistics. So things of that nature are located on this floor, as well as the tenant community health services. And as we move up, we now are at the rooftop level. And this is where the aquatics facility components really come into play, where we have the 25-meter rooftop lap pool, which, as I understand it, just for context, is similar in size to the high school. As well, on this level is changing facilities and restrooms for the aquatics facility. Adjacent to that, we have some exterior play area and a turf field. In the aquatics portion, which is on the roof of the Green Acres portion of the site, we tried to incorporate some areas that could be shaded, and as well as providing some apertures between the floor plates. I mean, I think something that is we tried to be cognizant of was the floor-to-floor elevation between these floor plates, to not have it seem overbearing and imposing. So, you know, while this is not showing, it's obviously conceptual. We just wanted to show that certain things are possible, such as incorporating some apertures to let natural light in addition to the envelope being completely open. So that is that's scheme one. And now pavilions in the park, we've coined that and really tried to think about that connection between Green Acres portion of the site and the site that the building is on, and try to draw connection, and maybe in this scheme show a variant that still has active recreation, still has staffed active recreation, but maybe is not as much as the previous. Really, what we tried to do in all of these schemes was just to give you, the community, a sense of what's possible and an array of different types of experiences, because, you know, we want to know your feedback and see, you know, what your preferences are, and see if there's certain aspects of one versus the other you prefer. So the overall just concept with this scheme is that there is, we have, in speaking with Green Acres representatives, the wading pool is within the Green Acres portion of the site. It is the concept being that it would be have operable doors. Nanowall is a manufacturer that makes such a product, where those doors could be opened up so that it essentially becomes an open canopy that is open to the Mist Plaza, as well as the kind of nestled in spray park between the two canopies. Then underneath the recreation mezzanine, we have the half-court basketball, and then adjacent to the street, to Second Street, there's a kind of a public plaza adjacent to the cafe. So as you can see here, just this image, I think, shows the relationship between the various elevations. Something we tried to be cognizant of as well in these different schemes is the massing and its relationship to the adjacent context. As you saw in the earlier scheme, really trying to maximize the envelope and try to put as much as we could. Now, we'll get into the data. This building isn't necessarily that much smaller, but the configuration of the masses is different. And you can see here where we have the access from the recreation mezzanine up to the kind of community garden, which is part of a lower mass that responds to the adjacent context. And there's trade-offs with all of them. So you can see here, and I think this is why I'm saying on the slide is because this slide is a good representation to give a sense of the different elevations and different masses, where we can see on 2nd Street, the building mass does that quote unquote pavilion, the larger mass, the taller mass, is because of square footage was reduced in other portions of the site to accommodate the square footage requirements, that portion of the building got taller. So the first floor, the cafe is located adjacent to the cafe plaza. We have senior services on the first floor. Senior services in this scheme is broken up into various parts. Because of the indoor swimming pool size and volume being at grade, it really does start to restrict the available square footage we have at this level. This configuration also has daycare at the ground floor. So that lobby lounge is really a 2-story height space. So you would access the building off of 2nd Street and go through the plaza into that lobby / lounge, which in speaking to the continuity between interior and exterior, the intention here is that the floor plate of that upper mezzanine kind of continues inside to draw people in. So as you're in the lobby, you then have the ability to look into the pool and get to senior services. So as you can see here, the wading pool and the other kind of aquatic themes program is located on at grade, where we have the naturalized playground as the Miss Plaza. Something we tried to do as well is think about the uses of these year round. So that was really the impetus behind thinking of that kind of Mist Plaza, where there might be a potential to use that area potentially for skating in off months. So trying to think about how these different spaces can be activated all year. So as we move up, we have the grouping of city services, as well as the community health service. And then the other mall volume is the double height space of the interior pool. And then as we go to the next floor, we have the community flex space, and that is thought of could potentially be a performance space. It could be for gymnastics, could be for cheer, it could be for I said performance, but theaters, things of that nature, where it offers the ability to have multiple functions. And here we have the library, which in this scheme is multiple floors, and the gymnasium, as well as an additional fitness and dance studio, is at this level. So you're able to access that stacked recreation, which is currently reflecting some pickleball courts above the Green Acres portion of the site. And speaking of the continuity, there's communication between that mezzanine level up to the community gardens and the walking / running track around the perimeter of the gym, which overlooks the Green Acres portion of the site. As we move up, we have senior services offices here, as well as additional library square footage. Now, library square footage, there's a host of things that are accommodated, be they offices, meeting rooms, open plan for reading and or looking at carols, and then at the upper level of the the other portion of the existing building, the other portion of the building, there's rooftop recreation, which can accommodate a tennis court or 4 pickleball courts. In this scheme, given that the massing is broken, there are 3 elevators, one to access the upper tennis court, pickleball court portion to the right, and then there's a bank of 2 elevators adjacent to the library. Then as we move up, community flex space, which again is a type of space that can be used for performances or meeting rooms as well. So last is the raised recreation. So this scheme tries to think about different ways of addressing the flood elevation, the criteria of the daycare for being accessible accessible means of egress to grade, as well as relationship with senior services to the exterior. So this scheme here utilizes a sloped walk that navigates around the perimeter of the street. It is less steep than a ramp, so it does not require landings, but it allows people to navigate up to the upper level, up to the second level. So in addition to the things I just mentioned in terms of daycare, something that we were pushing up against in all the schemes was the size of the hockey rink and potential configurations of that. Because that interfacing with Green Acres requirements, we had beginnings of some schemes that rotated the hockey rink. Just the nature of how large it is, it's really limiting in its factor. In addition to if there was a desire to have that be ice hockey, the added considerations of a Zamboni or just the weight of that, and thinking about restricting its ability to really be on the roof. So this scheme locates the hockey rink at grade off of Grand Street. So thinking that this could potentially, while it's configured as a hockey rink and while there is the ability to have active recreation, it could also serve as a performance space. So that was just something that we thought could warrant a voice, that it doesn't, while there is a host of active recreation, it itself can be multifunctional as well. So as we're at grade really on the existing portion of the site, where the existing building is, we have the lobby and the lounge, and that's essentially all we can really fit aside from the hockey rink. Hockey storage and access and utility spaces associated with that. Not utility spaces meaning mechanical equipment, but really storage would be located right adjacent where the cursor is, underneath that ramp. So this scheme incorporates an indoor 25 meter lap pool, same size as the aquatics facility from scheme 1. Although it's kind of a hybrid where we're thinking that this could potentially also be configured such that there's a nano wall, or it could be communication between the wading pool area and the lap pool. So that could all really be considered an exterior space, but also be a covered exterior space. In addition to that, we have this splash area and a small plaza. What is not present in this scheme is the cafe. And I know that was high on the list, but just given the square footage and of the hockey rink and inability to put that on the Green Acres portion, it was just proved to be too difficult to squeeze in. So as we move up, the public will have the ability to navigate up the slope walk and really maximize the square footage available by essentially stacking the active recreation above the 25-meter pool. There we have some playgrounds that would be enclosed by fence and some lawn area as well. So that yellow color, as we follow that around, that allows us to get to the second floor plate. This second floor is a bit higher than the earlier schemes because we need to think about depth of structure, spanning. There are structural considerations with this that aren't necessarily as demanding as the other schemes. So what this scheme does is actually reduces the footprint at this level. The exterior envelope of the daycare and senior services is offset from the exterior of the perimeter of the building, which allows the daycare and senior services to have, again, a type of porch, an exterior space that they can use, that they can also use to navigate down to grade unencumbered. Also on this space is kind of like a cutout for spectator seating that allows people to look down into the hockey area. And then the gray in the middle, that's restrooms and various support spaces. Similar to the other schemes, the city services is condensed on one floor plate. So similar program where we have the health department, the vital statistics, housing department, as well as the community health services. And then we move up to the upper floor where we have community flex space, which can, again, serve multi-purpose type of space. It is a two-story high space. It is sized to allow for a stage or a half-court basketball or cheerleading and things of that nature. In addition to that, we have a one-story multi-purpose recreation space that can be used for meetings or additionally some dance studios. And then the gymnasium and associated restrooms and changing facilities at the core of the building. And as we move up, we have the library, which is adjacent to the double height spaces of both the gym as well as the performance space. So tried to kind of nestle it in without increasing the height to the extent that we could keep the height down. And this library is characterized by its kind of U shape around an exterior courtyard that has some terrace seating that could be used as an exterior classroom. That's outside, but also allows the ability to get onto the roof, which has some additional program. You can see community gardens, as well as some pickleball courts, and that is all kind of circumscribed by a rooftop meadow around the perimeter. So that is a summation of the schemes, and just to compare, floor plate by floor plate, this is pretty dense, but maybe once this is uploaded onto the website, you can kind of assess and look at the various relationships between the different floors. But it's really just walking each scheme floor by floor and what's there.
Yeah, I would just add in that as you're filling out the community survey, the online survey, it just might be a good resource to look at to kind of compare scheme by scheme.
Okay.
Next slide, or?
Yes, please. Yes, thanks.
Okay.
So we touched upon earlier the kind of bar chart of the existing, and just to give a scalar relationship between the existing multi-service center and its site versus the three proposed concepts. So all three concepts are more or less the same square footage. They're off by a couple thousand square feet each, but each of them effectively doubles the amount of square footage, which was driven by the community input from the existing center. So you can see here, just in terms of the ability to kind of compare apples to apples spatially as to, what is being provided, concept one, exterior recreation with its static recreation, you can see how that bar is a greater value. So. Okay. So that's the bulk of the presentation in terms of describing the various schemes. I think, as was stated earlier, we are putting the newer survey because we'd love to hear community input as to what aspects of these various schemes are meaningful or aspects that you don't want. So that's going to inform the progression and final scheme. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Noel. That was excellent. Got a good sense of the various schemes. And Jennifer, were you going to moderate the questions we received?
Hi, everyone. This is Yasmin. I am going to read the questions, and some of them pertain to the city and some of them pertain to the Musial Group. So we'll just go one by one. And if you have any additional questions, continue to drop them in the chat and we'll see them and respond to them accordingly. Thank you. So the first question is, what is the taxpayer cost for each concept, and when will we know the cost? So I will let Jennifer answer that.
So after receiving community feedback on the concepts that were presented tonight, the Musial Group will use that feedback to create a final concept, which, as you see on the schedule on the screen, will be presented this fall. That concept will include cost estimates, and those cost estimates will be presented with the final concept. As far as funding sources, certainly as with any other capital project the city undertakes, we will look for a variety of funding sources, everything from grants to private investment, and any low interest financing that's available to offset the cost to the taxpayers. Yasmin, I think you're on mute. Sorry.
Thank you. And the next question is, will there be a pool also at 800 Monroe?
So the short answer is no. After hearing resident and stakeholder feedback about the best place in Hoboken for a pool, the multi-service center became the most logical choice. So there will not be a pool at 800 Monroe, and we certainly encourage everybody here to attend the next community planning meeting for the 800 Monroe Resiliency Park. That will be later this summer, and we'll be announcing that date shortly via Nixle and social media.
And will Hoboken Daycare 100 remain a tenant?
We do anticipate so, yes. As you'll note in all of the concepts presented this evening, there is space for daycare use.
Great. And what is the plan for current activities at the multi-service center during the time of construction?
So there is absolutely going to be a plan during construction. This will be a major improvement project. We know that. And with that major improvement comes a small disruption for the existing uses and a transition period for those existing uses. So we're going to do everything that we can to identify options that will provide the least amount of disruption, and also make sure that there is continuity for those critical services from the multi-service center, like senior services, during construction. So we do not have a solid plan yet, as we are currently evaluating various options, and will continue to do so.
And will there be a survey in order to make a decision?
Yes, there will be a survey that will be released tomorrow via social media, Nixle, and that survey will ask about your preferences about a variety of the amenities featured in the concepts tonight. I should note that it is very unlikely that it will be just one concept picked exactly as it is. Usually we receive a lot of feedback that results in tailoring and modifications to individual concepts. Maybe it's even a hybrid of multiple concepts based on community feedback. But the ultimate concept presented in the fall this year will reflect all of the community feedback that we receive from meetings, stakeholder engagement, and surveys.
During the design phase, did you consider adding a new headquarter for the Hoboken Police, Fire Department, and OEM dispatch?
So those uses were really not considered for this location. And that is because we looked at this location as primarily for recreation, senior, and other community uses. So those uses in public safety are being considered for the North End in Hoboken, and specifically the Office of Emergency Management will be co-located with our Public Works facility that we are actually moving into later this fall.
Is there a covered outdoor area open on the sides? And I think this is more of a museal question.
Well, the question is the covered outdoor area, like the canopy, open on the sides? And like, I believe the answer is yes, they're open.
That's true. It is, yes.
Great. In concept one, the covered out, I'm sorry. Could the indoor running track be designated as both walking and running? And I think that's more museal for design.
Oh, surely, yes. I mean, there's no restrictions that design-wise that are preventing either from occurring. Yeah.
And do the Green Acres regulations allow for Hoboken residents only to be a part of the multi-service center uses?
So Green Acres encumbered land, as with all Green Acres encumbered parks and public property, are required to be open to all residents of the state of New Jersey. This applies specifically to any Green Acres encumbered portions of the property.
What is the project timeline for the multi-service center? And I do think that we actually are on this slide now.
Well, the timeline for this concept design process is really announcing the final design in the fall. And following that, we'll proceed into full design. That full design process will could certainly take the better part of a year or so. And at that point, we will have a more definitive timeline on construction. But just keep in mind, this is currently the conceptual design phase. There will be a full design phase immediately following the concept design.
And what is the overall height of the building in concept 2?
So there are various elevations. Concept 2, as you saw, has they're coined pavilions, but they're varying roof heights. The uppermost, the tallest one, which has the library, is 72 feet above grade. The top of the trellis at the tennis pavilion is 60 feet. The top of the parapet at the community garden portion of the building is 42 feet. And just for reference, there was a question earlier about the exterior covered space in scheme 2. It's about 25 feet. So there's a fair amount of volume, fair amount of height. We tried to ensure that it didn't feel too overbearing and still feel open.
There was also a question about if there will be a copy of this recording. Yes, this meeting is being recorded and it will be posted to our website. do these plans take into account not just the community preferences, but also the anticipated volume of usage year round for each space? I think Musial maybe could answer that.
Yes.
So
Okay.
is the answer yes, that they
Yes.
did?
Yes, yes, it did. I mean, we had an exhaustive interview process. We had short answer is yes, it does.
Right, like you even mentioned that you could turn the splash pad into ice skating. Right, and there's ways to activate it year round.
Yes. Right.
And this has to do more with the pool. So would the outdoor pool and or water features presented in concept 1 be heated? Or is this an only usable space during the warmer times of the year, like June through September?
So as it's currently presented in concept 1, it is an exterior pool at the rooftop level. I think in part of the survey that's something we're trying to get a better understanding, to kind of fine tune as to what the desires of the community are, whether that should be an enclosed pool, whether it should be a retractable roof, things of that nature. We're looking for direction from the community. Right now, it's an exterior pool.
Great. And this one also has to do with concept 1. So on the ground floor, what are the gray boxes that are surrounding the daycare? There's one box that was labeled office, 275 square feet. Are those going to be elevators or bathrooms or something else?
All of the above. In addition to they will be elevators, they will be restrooms. There's also just ancillary space needed to ensure the functionality of the facility as a whole, where we have trash rooms, things of that nature. Yeah.
Great. I think we answered this one already about having a cover, retractable, removable roof for the rooftop pool. So I'm going to pass that. And can you clarify if all of New Jersey will have access to the pool or just Hoboken residents? So I think this is more of a city question.
Yes, so as it currently stands, there is a portion of the site that is Green Acres encumbered, which is the part of the site that has the hockey rink on it. The building is not Green Acres encumbered. It is a future discussion as to exactly what the uses of the facility are and policies of the facility are. But in generally speaking, we can say that currently, if there is no Green Acres diversion, that the portion of the site that is currently occupied by the hockey rink would be open to all of New Jersey residents, while the remainder of the site would not be. Again, that could change based on the future concepts and future policies, of course.
You. And I think those are the questions I'm seeing. If you have additional questions, we will be sending out a survey following this meeting, and it will also be posted to our city website. And if there's, I'm sorry, any closing remarks from the Q&A? Okay, we thank you very much for joining.
I think I actually saw Councilman Cohen's hand up.
Okay.
Hey,
Sure.
thanks for the presentation. Really appreciate it. Just two design comments. One is with respect to the elevators, which I know we're going to need for our seniors to be able to access the site. I would encourage you to consider a freight elevator in the design for moving equipment through the building. And the other suggestion would be with respect to the roof pool, outdoor pool areas to incorporate shade concepts for folks who can go. I saw the trellis on one of the designs, which looks good, but I think If you look at other community pool areas, there's sort of a more significant pool feature, something I would encourage you guys to take into account. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't quite catch all that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, can you repeat the part, sorry, Councilman, about the pool? It was a little bit of a muffled.
Sorry. Yeah, what I was suggesting was that other community pools, you'll see a larger shade feature
Uh-huh.
as part of the concept. I saw there was a trellis design in one of the designs, and I would encourage either umbrellas or other shade features to be incorporated into the pool design so that folks are able to have more places where they can be sheltered from the sun as well as enjoy the pool area. So if that would be considered with respect to the pool design, I think that would be an improvement.
Thank
That's
you.
all.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other council members looking to say a few words before we wrap it up?
All good.
All right.
Yes,
I'd just
thank
like
you.
to thank everybody for attending, for the great questions. Thanks to the Musial Group for an excellent presentation. We encourage everyone to fill out the online survey. An announcement will go out tomorrow where you can get the survey, and it'll be on social media as well. And we look forward to getting your feedback to be able to prepare a final concept.
Great job, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
Have a great night.
Thank you. Have a good night.